47 seconds. In 47 seconds, your heart beats around 56 times. 200 babies are born all over the world. A snail can travel about a metre, and Usain Bolt can travel 500. And in 2015, an earthquake in Nepal shook its way across the country. It killed 9,000 people. It injured 22,000 people and displaced almost 3.5 million in 47 seconds. In the time it's taken to watch this film so far, entire villages were wiped off the map. Generations of families were killed, and millions of livelihoods were destroyed. On that day, April the 25th, 2015, at 11:56 a.m, I too was caught up in that disaster. I was at 6,000 meters on Mount Everest, making a film as part of a fundraiser for Community Action Nepal, a charity founded by the revered mountaineer Doug Scott. Doug was a member of the first British team to successfully summit Everest back in 1975. There was I, on the same mountain 40 years later, hoping merely to successfully escape alive. Fast forward 3 years and I'm back out in Nepal, this time with Doug Scott himself and the rest of the Community Action Nepal team. His charity helps some of the poorest people in the world, those living in the high Himalaya in Nepal. As part of a hugely collaborative effort, it helps local villagers to build and develop their own healthcare, education and community projects in a way that is not only environmentally sustainable, but economically sustainable in a way that empowers the locals to live healthier and happier lives without having to permanently rely on foreign aid. I'd learned that almost every single CAN project had been affected in some way by the earthquake. But in the 3 years since, the charity and the local people had completed almost all of the rebuilding efforts, and I'd come out to see the results for myself. CAN have partnered with a construction and engineering agency called WYG. They're an organisation that responds to disasters all over the world and helps to rebuild essential infrastructure. Together with Doug, they developed a programme for the earthquake response entitled Building Back Better, and developed an ethos that underpins every project that CAN and WYG undertake in Nepal.
CAN as a charity has a very strong ethos about supporting locals, but only where help is requested and needed. And we were very keen in reconstruction that this ethos should be reflected. So we're really keen that we support the local skill sets within each village. They've been building stone masonry and timber for centuries, and they're very good at it. And there's very simple seismic resilient techniques that can be integrated into the local traditional building methods. So we're really keen that we maintain this vernacular architecture and approach, utilising the skill sets within the village and minimising the amount of external skills that had to be imported into the village.
We're not introducing any new techniques. We're building as per the government standards and the way that they should be building their houses, but we're making sure that they're built properly, so the ring beams are properly connected, etc.
We lead by example in CAN, so we've taken the government plans and we've trained up our own engineers and overseers to work with the locals to make sure that they can understand and translate what's on a drawing and put it into a physical building.
CAN aren't trying to enforce any building techniques, we're just trying to be a positive influence and help them realise that we're just trying to help save their lives.
Together with Glyn and Cara, we travelled to every major rebuilding site to check the progress. As we flew over the numerous villages up the remote Himalayan valleys, it became very clear that my experience on Everest 3 years earlier paled into insignificance compared to what the local villagers here must have experienced. Although the landscapes have slowly recovered, the mountain wears its scars as a deep reminder of the disasters that occurred here. This is what's left of Langtang village. A once thriving community, popular with trekkers, now simply a plateau of soil. The earthquake here caused an avalanche that sent millions of tons of rock and ice down the mountain. It buried the entire village, killing 243 people, 100 of whom are still buried here to this day. Temba here lost 20 members of his family on that day. For him, and millions of others, the last 3 years have not simply been about rebuilding the bricks and mortar, but about rebuilding their entire lives. Further up the valley, in Tianjin, the earthquake destroyed homes and temples, forcing many elderly people to live in caves or temporary shelters through the freezing Himalayan winter. But 3 years on, Can have completed the construction of a community building and some permanent housing for the elderly. With WYG's expert designs, these buildings are warm, weatherproof, and more importantly, seismically resistant in order to withstand another earthquake and save the lives of their inhabitants. In Malamchi, the support of Can had helped Purna to repair and rebuild the local school that he'd lovingly built up from scratch over the last 20 years. His school is now so successful that it has been recognised for its outstanding achievements by the Nepal government.
Here in Malamchi Gaon, there were 130 houses, totally collapsed, totally gone. No one house survived. I found one people died inside the home and one died inside the forest jungle. Everybody were crying, shouting. After disasters, Can involve direct to rescue first and then providing the relief. It is a big support. Without Can, it was not possible. This credit goes to the Community Action Nepal and dog is cut.
Can's projects line the valleys in these hugely inaccessible regions of the Himalayas. Accessing these villages can take up to 3 weeks on foot. It's a journey that is fraught with dangers, which means that the locals must risk their lives if they're to attempt to walk to the nearest city for supplies or medical care. And that is why the work of Can is so vitally important. The new seismic-resistant health posts here are a lifeline for these communities. Can help to construct them and then provide them with qualified and specially trained nurses. They stock them with medicines and equipment and provide each one with an organic kitchen garden. This not only provides healthy food for the nurses, but also teaches the locals how to grow their own organic fruits and vegetables in order to live healthier lives. Prevention, as they say, is always better than the cure. And the schools, like the one in Malamchi, are built to the exacting standards of WYG's engineers and architects. They're staffed by trained teachers and supplied with books and equipment to give every local child the chance of an education. Without these schools, these local children would have had to either leave home to find schooling or walk many miles in treacherous conditions every day. In many cases, these schools provide overnight accommodation in safe and warm dormitories, and the children are given healthy food to make sure they're feeding their tummies as well as feeding their minds. Although all of these schools are outstanding, the most remarkable school, however, is Barabisi, the school for the deaf. Barabisi is a boarding school created specifically for the education of the deaf and hearing impaired. The teachers are specially trained, and the children given an opportunity to learn that would otherwise be completely impossible. Since the rebuild, the school is now better than ever. The children have returned, and the earthquake is becoming a distant memory. As well as extraordinary young people, this school also boasts something quite remarkable in its garden. A mushroom farm has been set up that is now so successful it not only provides them with enough food to eat, but also with enough to sell at the local market and provide them with an income. WYG and Can's system for helping to develop these communities is so successful because they've put sustainability and collaboration at the forefront of their approach. They use locally available resources, which not only reduces the requirement for transporting the materials over a long distance, but also means that the resources are always available to the locals in order to repair or rebuild in the future. The charity relies on the locals to volunteer their time to help construct the buildings too. This way of working ensures that the locals are equipped with everything they need in order to build seismic-resistant buildings which may one day save their lives. But it also gives them the ability to take control of their own future by reducing donor dependency. And the impact of these projects goes way beyond just the bricks and mortar. Improving the health of the villagers through the education from the nurses can prevent the need for expensive healthcare and trips to the city for treatment. An educated young person not only gives them a chance of finding employment or a place at university, it empowers them to become more confident and capable members of their society. And it allows them to understand the complexities of this country's notoriously unstable political environment, so that they may one day vote for their own future. The work of CAN in these regions has created an environment where people can flourish. In the harshest of conditions, they're given the opportunity to grow. They're able to welcome in modernity whilst honouring and respecting their cultures, traditions, history, and their uniqueness. I'd arrived here expecting to find a region recovering from devastation, but instead I found a country with an unbreakable spirit and a tenacity to survive against all odds. The people here, along with CAN and its team of volunteers and supporters, have shown just how much can be achieved with so little. But there's still a long way to go. So now it's your turn to change a life in 47 seconds. That's all it takes now to visit CAN's website and offer your support. Donate, volunteer, or organise an event. But whatever you decide, you'll be helping to change the lives of some of the poorest and most unique communities in the world. Be a part of their story. Support CAN today.